Hello friends and everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I'm Frederick, as you know, and I'm happy to have you here today. This is part 3 of the inventory management system app that we started. In the previous video, we were able to complete the authentication system, and that is cookie to precise. And now in this, we're going to talk about how to create a repo using the CQRS and the other stuffs. As usual, if you haven't subscribed to this, make sure you do that and also click on the notification bell to receive updates as soon as I upload a new content. You can also like this video in case you find something interesting in this. I offer coaching sessions to people who are interested and want to improve their skills in .NET, to precise, Blazor, Maui, and Web API. So if you're interested, check the video description. I have an email there. You can write to me through it. Also, the whole project will be in a separate playlist. So check the video description and you can find the links to the other 2 videos which have been created already. Okay, so this is what we did in the last video. So I'm going to close this. So the first thing I'm going to do here is you're going to implement the activity tracker. What is this going to do? You want to track all the events happening on the system, starting from creating user up to creating product, updating product, and a whole lot. Okay, so anything that goes in there, we want to keep track of it. And it is the admin who can have access to it. Anybody who has a right to manage user can also see the tracker. So that's a log. So we're going to actually integrate this to enable the admin to see what goes on in the system. Now with this, this is just an idea that I brought. Okay, so you can modify this to suit what you want. This is just a demo, so you can modify this to actually do what you like with it. Okay. All right. So here we need to create a domain for this, and going to the domain project side for the entities. I'm going to create a folder and now name this as activity tracker. Now with this, I have just a class in there which has in the ID, the date, the title, description, operation state, and also the user ID. So that specific task, who is performing, what is an ID for that user? Even though we know that is limited to administrator and manager, we want to get, because we might have multiple admins, we might have multiple managers. So you want to know the exact person who performed that operation. So that's the reason why we need this. So once we have this created, let's go to the AppDB context and I register a DB set for this. So in the infrastructure, we go to our data access, AppDB context, and we want to register DB set for this. Once we add this, it means that we have to perform migration to get this table created, isn't it? Yes, you do that later on. So let's go to the interface that we created in the application layer previously, and in the identity, you see we commented this too. This is the time for us to uncomment it. But before we do that, we must create a DTO for this. That's a request and response DTOs. So let's first have a look on the request DTO, and the DTO from the request folder. In the identity, you can also have my activity tracker, which comprises of just a class of activity tracker request DTO, and which inherits from this base class. Okay, so we need to create this base class, and this base class, you go to the response. And in here, we can have our activity tracker folder, and we have our base class in here, which comprises of the date, the title, the description, operation state, and the user ID. Now, when you go to this activity tracker response, we can see also inheriting and adding the extra data that we need as a property of what username. That's great. This is going to display the info to the user or the admin, and then this is going to send to the database. So that's the reason why you have the request and the response. So we have to use the activity tracker. This is something that I did. Now what I did was I want to save all operations that go on within the system. I want to save it to the database so that the admin can have access to it. Now within that, we have to save it and we have to retrieve it. So in this format, we have to create a DTO for this. That's a request and a response. It is only the administrator who can have access to this. Anybody who has the right to manage user can also have access to this class, okay, or this method. So that's what we're doing. Now, before we uncomment this from our interface that you created, we need to create a DTO, and that is a request and a response. So let's go to our DTOs, and now from our response, we're going to have another folder known as activity tracker, which has the base activity tracker, and the base comprises of the date, the title, description, and the user ID and operation state. And now from there's a response, so this is going to get from the system to the user, and in that you want to display the username. You don't want to display only the user ID. It doesn't make sense to the administrator to see only user ID because he might not know which user has this ID. Whereas we can use the username, and for that matter, it becomes simple and easy for the admin to identify the person. Okay, so that's the reason why we need to add this extra property in here. Good. Now, once you're done with that, we need to create a request DTO2, and that's going to be used to save or serve the database with this data. And from that request, we can have activity tracker, which has the identity activity tracker request DTO, and it inherits from this base. So let's say that this class doesn't have a name, right? It doesn't have a name property. It has the rest based on what we have in the base down here. Good. Now, once you're done with this, we can now go ahead and quickly we can uncomment what we did in the previous video. And let's do that quickly. And now we have no issue. Maybe what we can do here is we can add the namespace, and that is all. Now we're also going to do same to the repo. So we go to the infrastructure, and from there, repo repository, you can see we created an account. And now with this account, we commented this, so we can now do justice to this. So this comes in with the request, and now that goes in with the response. So here we need to include the AppDB context in here. So when you use AppDB context, you can now have access to the DB context file, and that is this matter of what activity request. That's what we did in the AppDB context. So when you go there to check, you see activity tracker. There's a table name, so we want to get a table name, and as a matter of that, we need to use the DB context. Okay, so that's what we're doing. You can see that from here, we are saving it. But before we save this a request DTO, so we have to map it, and we are using this map start. So model.adapt, we want to map it to this tracker, and there's the original, that's an entity. Okay, so this is the entity itself. So you want to map it, and after that, you want to save this. We add it and now save changes. Now here we are populating it, so you can see we get the list, and then we get a list from the activity tracker. We convert it into a list whilst you adapt it to this response, and we looping through, return this list. Okay, so that is what we are doing. Now you can see from here, we have to get a username. So we're making the find this method and passing the name so we can assign it to this. Okay, so we can have access to the name in there. Good. So now that we have this set, what can we do? We can quickly go in there to the service that we created, iAccount service. Do you remember that in the application layer, services folder, iAccount service, we need to also uncomment the service because the base has been implemented. Therefore, the service can be called. And now when you go to the implementation, you can uncomment this. So we call the service in there, and now that is all. Okay, so here we are grouping it by date. Very simple. So just a grouping. Okay, grouping by date. Okay, so we've done this. What we can do here is we can save everything. Let me close all this. So we are done with this. So anytime that you want to make a call or save anything, we can do that quickly from calling this endpoint, and it's going to be saved in the database. Good. So now we need to create our product, our location, and our category. So we need 3 models now, 3 entities with their separate or DTOs. So that is what, now this is what we're going to do. The product comprised of what the items in the warehouse or in the shop that you want to keep it, okay? In that, I specify some properties. Maybe you can add more, you can remove some and add based on what you want, your preference or your requirement. You can do that. This is just a demo, so you can just modify this to suit what you want. Good. Now with this, we need product, we need location, we need category, okay? And maybe later on, we can have the order as well. So as I explained in the first video, now product is going to be the items that we have in the warehouse. Category, category is category, and the category can have a list of product. So that's a one-to-many relationship or many-to-one relationship. Location also going to have, because let's say it's a first floor, second floor, third floor, like that. So a floor can have a lot of product. So it's the same one-to-many relationship. And also we have an order, right? So this order is going to be a model that we're going to create, and that is what the user going to check, pick the product, and now make an order, type in the quantity, and now send it to the database. Okay, so that is what you're going to do. So let's go in then and create our models, and now let's start with it. So when you go to the domain, we can have from the entities, we can have our product, and our product comprised of the category, which inherit from the product base. You can have access to the location, which also inherit from the product base. You can have the product itself, which also inherit from product base, okay? And now when you go to the product base, it's just an ID and our name. So we are grouping all the commands in the base class, then we are inheriting it from against each of the module that we're going to create. Now we have an ID, we're going to use ID as what GUID. And now since this is not an integer, you need to specify the key on top for the ORM to know that yes, we want to make this an ID. So please do that for us. Good. So now that we have this, what else can we do? We can also create our order. So the order, we can also put it in the entities. Now in the order, we have only the order.cs. And now before you order an item to the warehouse, you have to provide the ID of it. There's an order ID, and this has to be provided automatically. And aside from that, we need dates ordered is the date time.now. We need delivering dates, product ID, client ID, the person ordering, we need the ID, quantity, price, total price, and now we have the order state. Now this total price is going to be calculated automatically. It is not the client who's going to type in the total amount, okay, or the price. The price is there in the system. Whilst you're creating product, you set up the price in here. So we're going to populate the price and assign it to that specific item and multiply the price by the quantity that the user types in from the order. We have a quantity in here. So whatever number that the user types in here, we're going to multiply it by the price of this to get a total amount. Good. And defaultly, when you create an order, the state here, I set it to processing. That's the first state, okay? By in this, you can cancel the order, or an admin can update the order, and so forth. We look at all this, okay? For now, let's have a look at this. Now that we have our models, we need to go to our AppDB context class and make or create a DB set for each of them. So quickly, we can navigate to our AppDB context class. And now we need to have product, categories, location, and now orders. Okay, so that's what we need to do. AppDB context. Now let's add these 3 data sets. So this is a DB set. We have our product, category, location, and others. And fine, that is all. So we need to update our database because these are the tables that we need for the whole project. Yes. So we don't need any table again, unless maybe you want to add an extra one. So let's build solution. And I'll run migration and check it out. So it succeeded. Now let's go in there and add migration to this. So we need to make infrastructure as the startup. in here as a default project. Now let's update database. Yeah, so this is also done. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to create our we're going to use a CQRS. We're going to create our queries, commands, and our handlers. The queries and the commands are going to be in the application layer, and now the handler is going to be the infrastructure, because the handler needs a DB set to work with it. Now the DB set is found in the infrastructure. So that's the implementation of the repo. So the DB set must be, or the handler must be, in the application, the infrastructure layer. I don't want to confuse you today. Sorry for that. Good. So let's do that. Take note, we create the query and a command in the application layer. The implementation goes to where? The infrastructure. Good. But before we create this infrastructure, we create our handlers, queries, and commands. We need to create our DTOs first, because DTO is what we're going to be using in that. So in our DTO, here we're going to have our response DTO. Let's create a response DTO for product. So here I have the product in here, and now from that product I have get category response in here. I have get location response, get product response, product base DTO. So when you go to the product base DTO, it has the name, the serial number, location ID, category ID, it has price, quantity, description, and now the image of the product. Okay, so it has the various attributes specified on top, and I believe you know this already. Good. Now when you go to the product response, this get product, we have from this product base DTO, and these are the extra properties that we need. We specified it. We do same to location response. This is what we need. And now when you go to this get category response, we also use the same. You will see both are inheriting from update category request DTO, and it's coming from a request, so we need to also add the request. So when you go to this request, we can have our product, and now this also has the add category request, which takes in only the name. Add location, it takes in only the name. Now this add location is inheriting from this add category, because it's the same thing. Now add category has the name, add location also needs name, so we don't need to repeat it. We can inherit it, and so that way it's going to work. We also need add product request, and this add product request inherit from the base DTO. Everything that it needs, get it from the base DTO. We have update category, which takes in the ID, and which inherit from this add category, which has the name. Okay, so name and ID. You go to the update location, and it's the same. So here it's inheriting from this update category response. That's a request. Now this request, if I click on this and now click on pick definition, you know, this is also inheriting from this add category. Now add category has in the name, so it is the name and the ID, so we have it in here. So anytime that you call this update, you have name and ID. And now for location 2, we need the same name and ID, so you need not to repeat it, rather we can inherit from this, and that is all. You see that? And we have this the add update product response. We've done that already. Now when you go to the product, you know, I've explained this already, isn't it? Yeah, so there's no need for me to get it again. Now when you check this get category response, you know, we are having a relationship in here, and that's a many to one or one to many. Okay, so here we have an I collection of get product response, and it's in the form of product. And now when you go to the product itself, so when you go to this get category, so when you go to get product response, you know, we're having this category, and now so there's a one to many. So one category can have many products, and many products can also have one category. So that's a one to many or many to one. And you're doing the same thing to the locations. You also have it set in the one to many or many to one. Good. So these are DTOs that we need. We need two DTOs, response and request. For product, we've set them as you can see from here. Now let's see the order. So we need to also have our response order DTO, which takes in, we have get product with quantity response DTO, Now this DTO is going to be used for our graph, okay? So we want to get only the product name and the quantity ordered. We have get ordered response DTO, so we're inheriting from the ordered base DTO, and in that we need all the following properties in here because we're going to be displaying this order on the screen for the user to see. So we need all the needful packages, not the packages, the needful properties for this display. Then we have get others count response. So we're going to get a count. So we have the state, we have processing, delivering, delivered, and now the cancelled. So you can see that these are the states. Now you want to find out number of orders which have each state. So that's the reason why we're doing that. This is going to return an integer, okay? This will return because you are returning this processing. So these are the parameters that we passing in. Get orders count. So when you get the handler, you're going to see what you're going to return as an integer. Now when you go to this, get orders by month. So you want to get orders by month, and that's what we're doing. So you can see we have this month name and now the total amount. Now this month name, we have it in maybe in October or etc. or from January up to December. We want to grab this within a year. So we want to group the data within a year by a month. So within the month of maybe January, how much orders did you make? Okay, so you can see that we can have this month and now the orders. This month and now the orders. That's what we are doing. Now in order to convert this into a currency, that's why we are formatting this to toString, and we have it into this currency symbol to have this double and a comma separated. Okay, now let's see, from our orders we need our request, and now from our request we need create order request. So under creating order, we inherit from this base DTO and then we add client ID. When you go to the base, we have the product name and the quantity, and now here we are also adding ID to this. Okay, so we have it in there. Then update client orders, we have the order ID, the state, and then the delivering state. This delivering state, this one is a delivering date. Okay, so here update it, you can update this to set the current date you return the item to the requested shop. And also the order state here changes from processing to maybe delivering, delivered, cancelled. So you can also do that. And it's a work of an admin to update the system on these aspects. Good. So these are our DTOs that we need for this particular project too. So make sure you create all these projects nicely and beautifully. So now that we are done with our DTOs, we're going to create our handlers. So this is going to be, we first need to create our commands and queries. Now commands are what you're going to be using, like delete, create. Okay. Now queries are what you're going to be doing, like read or get. So we need to create commands and we need to create our queries. Good. Now you're going to do that for product and also for orders. So let's first start with the product. This is going to be in the service. So we have an account service down here already, and I'm going to add another one in there, and make sure we are in the application layer and a service folder. That is where we need to actually add this. So in here we're going to have a product, and in our product we're going to have our commands and queries. Okay, so I've explained already what commands are and what queries are. Now when I click on commands, we have category, we have location, we have product, because we're going to be creating CRUD on each of these entity. Now categories entity, we're going to create this CRUD for. The same thing applies to the location and the product. So when you go to the categories, you can see we have create, delete, and update. All these are commands. So for create, we have this as a record class of what create category command. We pass in the payload, and that's an add category request DTO. Then we inherit from this I request. Then we pass in as a response, as a return, because when we get in contact a database, we want to return a response to the user. So in that, we created this service response to handle that. And now also when you go to delete, we need to only get the product ID to delete it. That is a category ID, sorry. So we need to get a category ID and now delete it. And this has to return a service response. We do same thing to the update and it also needs an update category request DTO, and also inherit from the same thing as you can see from here. Good. Now when you go to location, we are doing same to location. You see, it is the same thing that we are doing. And when you go to product, the same. You see that? It is the same thing. Good. So that's for our commands that we need to create. Now when you go to the queries, let's see from our queries, this is a command. We have category, we have location, we have what? Product. From the categories, we have get all category query. Now here, it is coming in with I enumerable, passing this DTO get category request DTO. The same thing applies to this is get categories with product query. So in that, it's taking in a I enumerable of what get category request DTO. Okay, so that is what we are having in here. When you go to the location too, it has the same thing as you can see from here. So it is the same. Now get location with product query. We can also have this in there. Good. Then when you go to the product, get product by ID, and now get product query. So get product by ID, you specify the ID, and now get product by get product, so get all products, and which has in this I returns the I enumerable of what get product response. Okay, so that is it. That's what we need to create. These are commands and these are queries for our product, our location, and our category. We need to now create implementation for this. But before that, let's add our others. This is for product. We need to add our other as well. So from the service, let's also add our others commands, and here we need cancel order. If the user want to cancel the order, all that we need to do here is to get the ID, and that is all. If the user want to create an order, we need to create order request DTO, and that is all. We can hear from the same I request with the service response. Then update client order. That's going to be performed by the admin and also the user. User can update his response, his orders by canceling it. Okay, so cancel response or cancel order, which is going to be used by this order. So we pass in the order ID, they're going to cancel that. But for this update, it's going to be used by the admin or the manager, only for administration. So that's an update. We pass in this update client order request DTO, which inherit from this I request service response. Good. And when you go to the queries too, we have get all others, and we're going to get all others, and which has the same I enumerable. Okay, so the same thing as you saw in the product. Now get here, we are creating generic order count. Now with this, we want to pass in a specific state. So when you check here, admin can use this, user can also use this. So that's why we are saying that get generic orders count. You know, from the overview section, when the page loads, we have this side section which gets all the info, the count, that is the state, the product ordered, the total amount, and a lot. Okay, so in that, you want the admin to get the whole thing from the system, and you want the same method to be used by the client to get data related to that specific client. So that's the reason why we specify this is admin and also the user ID. So if you're an admin, you're going to have your user ID as well. And now this admin is going to be what? True. So we're going to base on this admin to check it. And if you're a user, then you're going to use the user ID. And now since this admin is false, you're going to use this ID to make a query and now get your data for you. Yes. So that's the reason why I name it as get generic order count. Okay. The name sounds so weird, but don't worry. You can modify this very small one to suit what you want. Okay. Now you have get ordered products with quantities. So this is for the graph. Get orders, ordered products with quantity. So we have user ID. Here, if you're an admin, we don't need user ID. We're going to get everything. But for user, we want to get only data related to your user ID. And that is all. Okay, we pass in the I enumerable and I get ordered product with quantity responded to that we created in there. And I get others by ID. You pass in the ID, the user ID, and now we're going to return enumerable of what get order response. And our last one is for the graph, get product ordered by the month. So we're going to get by the month. And the same thing, admin, get everything. User, use the user ID. which returns I request or I enumerable of what get product ordered by month response DTO that we created. Good. So we have our others, we have our commands, we have our queries created for both products and also others. One left here, it is our handlers. So let's go to infrastructure and I'm creating our handler in there. So before we create our handlers, we need to use DB context factory. Why do we need to use DB context factory but not DB context? Now, in the context of CQRS, that is a command query responsibility segregation and entity framework call, a DB context factory is a mechanism for creating instances of an EF core DB context class. It's particularly useful in scenarios where you need to ensure that each command or query handler gets its own isolated instance of DB context to prevent issues like concurrency problems or unintended data modification. So we need to create for each command or each handler, it needs its own DB context. We don't need to create one instance of DB context and be using it by other handlers. No. So one handler, one context, one handler, one context. And that's what we need to do. And in order to do that, you need a DB context factory. Okay. So we're going to create this factory. And in that factory, we're going then now use the factory in all the handlers that we create, starting from the product, category, location, and others. So in our infrastructure, we're going to add our factory in there. And from our data access, I have an interface of IDB context factory. And in that, you have the context definition in here. So we're going to return a T of what get required service from this T. So we're going to provide in a DB context, and you can create an instance of this, which inherit from this a DB context factory, where the T here is a class, and which inherit from this DB context. Good. So once you have this, we can go ahead and create in we can start with our implementation. Now, let's go in there and start with our handlers. So I'm going to create folder in here for the repo, and maybe I can call this as products. And within the product, I'm going to create my handler inside this product. So in this handler, you have categories, location, and product. Now, if I click on create category handler, we can see from here, we are injecting a DB context factory from here. And now in a DB context factory, we create an instance of this as a context factory. And now within that, implementing our CQRS, it has inherit from this I request handler, which takes in this command and the service response. That's a return type. Okay. In that, you need to implement the abstract, implement the interface in there. And here you can see we are using this using statement. Now this using here, as soon as we are done using this DB context, it's going to dispose it. Okay. So we create an instance of this factory in there, and now we can go ahead. We can get from the categories in here, first or default, whereby the name is equal to this. We can start with our implementation. So here, making a search out of the category to see if the name already exists. Let me just unpin this. So we're checking if the name already exists. In case it does, you want to return this response. I created a separate response for this. I name it as general DB responses. And now let me show you what I did. So maybe from our handler, or maybe where can I input this? Maybe in our product, I can just paste this down here. Okay, so from this, we have this general DB responses. And now with these responses, I have item already exist. So I can just return the name. And I can just set this. You can see that it is returning a service response. And now this service response has in two properties. It has the bool, and that is the flag, and also the message, a string. So here it has an item already exists, item not found, item created, item updated, and item deleted. So what I'll be doing, I'll be calling this method often in the product handler. So when you go back again to the create category, if I say that this is not now, this category already exists, I want to return this. If I see it doesn't, I want to convert it and now add it, save the database, update changes, and now return item created. That's what we are doing for this handler. So we are adding it to the database, and that is all. Now when you go to the next one, and that is from the delete category, we are also doing same. We're going to create an instance of this DB contest. So all the handlers create an instance and now search it from this. When you get it, remove it and now save. Return this item deleted. That's very simple because the tag said return a service response. Now when you go to the next one here, that is a get all categories handler. From the categories, we also implement the same thing. We create an instance of this, and now we make a search from here, convert to a list. We return it by adapting it into a get category response DTO, and I return it. So this adapt is coming from this Mapster, and that's the package that we installed as an auto mapper. Okay, it's the same. So we are using a Mapster instead of auto mapper. Good. Now from the update category handler, we're also doing same. We are going to return what? Service response, which takes in this command. And now from down here, we create an instance of this DB contest. Then we're going to be using it to make a search. When we have it, then we want to detach it. After detaching it, we want to convert this into a model state of this entity. We want to now update it, save changes, and return. You can see this is very simple. Good. So that's for our category. We do same to location. So it is the same thing. Okay. So I need not to explain this again. It is the same thing, just that here I just change the name, the table name, location. That is all. Delete, the same thing. Get all locations, the same thing, and now add the location too. It is the same thing. Okay. Now when you go to product, create product, it is the same because each of them is return a service response. So it's the same thing. Just that what I need to do here is update the command instead of here is a create product command. So change the command and now change the DB contest name. You create a contest, you create an instance in here, and now change the table name. So this is product. Then you have to make sure this is product. Add it, save it, and now return. When you go to the next one, delete product, it is the same thing that we're doing. Search for the product name. When we have it, remove it, save it, and now return item deleted. When you go to get product by ID, here we need this get product query, which takes in the ID. So when you check this, you see we create an instance of this DB contest factory. After creating this instance, we're going to get all the products, and I'm going to include categories. We're going to include what? Location, and then we're going to search for where ID is equal to this request.id. So that's get product by ID. So getting product detail, we can get by ID and return this. So we're going to return this, populate this, and return. Because this is going to return what? Get product response. So you need to provide values to each of the model or the property provided in that DTO. Get product handler, getting everything converted to a list. Then we're going to return select. So this is going to be selecting many. Then return it in the form of what? List. And also, when you check this update product, we are doing the same thing as we did to the category and also the location. We want to make sure we search for it. When you say we detach it, after detaching it, then we want to convert it into a state of this entity, update it, save it, and return item product updated. Okay, so that is what we are doing in here. So you see, this category, location, product, they have something in common because they have the same trend that we can actually use to create each of them. Good. Now that we have a product, we need to create handler, and it is the same. So implementation is the same, just that here we need to define the table name separately. Good. So now let's have a look with the others. So with the others, let's see, others, that's infrastructure. And now with the others in here, we also have the same thing. So we have a handler, we have cancel order. So user can cancel order, administrator can also cancel order. So before you cancel order, you need here, we need this cancel order command that we created. Okay. Now this cancel order, you're going to return a service response. We created a class or instance of this contest factory. Then we're going to search from the product. the others and now search for the specific ID, other ID. In case we find that, then we're going to remove it. Now we're going to set, we're not going to actually remove it from the system. We're going to set the state to cancel. So before you set the state, you must have this other state. So I created a static class for this others, and that is what I am using, okay, in here. Let me show you this this class, what it has. So from the application layer, we have extensions. So let me add it in here. Now this other state, you see I have just cancelled, processing, delivered, and I'm delivering. So instead of I writing this in there, no, I'd rather create a class and now use it here. So I can use a class in there, and that is exactly what I did. So since we want to cancel it, we could see we set this other state to cancel, and now after setting this state to the cancel, you have to just save changes, and that is all. Everything's up. So that's for the cancel. Now when you go to the create other, it is the same thing as we did. You can see we have to add some stuff in there. You can do that in the DTO. Well, you can also do that in here. We search for the product. We are going to create it. So when you look at it, we're going to search from the product and get the data of that specific product. When we have it, we want to convert this into the order that we have into this other entity, because first it's coming in with an order DTO. So we want to convert it to this entity. After doing that, we want to populate this total amount, order state, and price. So defaultly set order state to processing, and our total amount equal to product price times what the quantity that the user type in. Then set the price and now save it. Good. So that's what we're doing for this. Get all orders, getting it to a list. You see, we create an instance, we get all orders, we get all products, then we get all users, because we're going to be using this to populate it. Now you're going to return this. Now ID, product name, we get from the product, get a name. We have the product image, we get from the product and now select image. Serial number from the same product and get serial number. Client name, get from the user manager, so from these users, and now get the name. Okay, so we have to get these three states or these three lists in here, so we can loop through them and now search for data related to this specific ID that we have in here. Good. So at the end of the day, you make sure you convert this to a list and I return it. And that is that for this get all orders. Now with the get generic order handler, here we want admin and user to use this method. So you first check, is the admin false? If it's false, then it means here this is referring to a user, then get it by ID. In case it is true, meaning it's an admin, then don't, because for admin you want to grab the whole context. So get to a list and I return. And now in that we're going to process it. You want to extract the processing, get all others or the list which has the process state of what processing, and delivered to delivered, this one delivering to delivering, delivered to delivered, cancel to cancelled. So get all the count. We are getting the count. Take note. So this is not going to return list, rather count. And I return this get other count, which takes in count, processing, delivering, delivered, and now cancelled. Okay, so that's what we are doing in here. Okay, now let's see the next one. Get others, ordered product with quantity handler. Now here we're going to group this. So when you have a look here, we need to check is a request. When you check it here, you can see we are checking if the user ID is null. It means we are going to use this as an admin. In case it is not null, then it means it is for user. So you want to search it by the user ID and now return it into a list. So you can see we get it from the user ID, we convert it into a list. And if it's an admin too, then straight ahead convert to a list. After that, you want to group them. So group them by date. So when you have a look here, we want to search for the date ordered. We are grouping them. We want to get data within 12 months. So that's what we are doing. Greater than or equal to today's date dot add month minus 12. So we are subtracting 12 months from today's date, which is going to give us last year. We want to group them by name or by product ID. Then we're going to convert it to a list. You see? Then that is all. So here, once we have this, we're going to loop through this. Then we're going to have our product name, because it's going to be a key and the value. So from the key, we can search the key from here. You want to get the key name, because this is going to give us, here we having product name and a quantity. Okay, so for the product name, we have the product ID. So you want to grab the product name. So that's why we are having this ID is equal to other key dot name. This is going to give us the ID. And I want to have this ID. We're going to search it from the product. Then we can have the name in there. So when you check at the end, we are getting the name here. So use the ID, search the product, and I get a name. And that's what we are doing in there. And from the quantity, we're going to also sum the quantity, and I return it as what quantity ordered. Return the data at the end, because it's going to be a list. Return it at the end. And get others by ID. It is the same thing. So get others by ID. You specify the ID. We search for the ID in here. You can see, search for the ID, convert to a list, and then we're going to return. So we get the others, we get a product, and now we're going to return a select of this. Okay, so product name, and it's the same thing that we're doing in here. Here we are getting others by ID query. And the next one here, get product ordered by month. So this is for also the graph. And here we create a DB context. We get the list in here. If ID is not equal to null, meaning get everything. But in case if ID is not equal to null, it means user exists. So get is the client who is calling this. So get it from the client. And if there is null, it means it's an admin. So get a whole list from here. Then group them into months. Now when you have this is going to give us the month name. Okay. So from that month name, we want to get the month name, not the month number. This is going to give us the month number. It's an integer. So you want to convert it and get the month name. So we use this current quarter.date time format dot get month name, passing the key or the month ID. And this is going to give us the key to that. You see? So we have the key in here. It's going to give us the month name itself. So here, let's say A is going to give us August, 1 is going to be January, 2nd is going to be what? February, and so forth. So you can get the product or the month name here, and we're also going to sum the total amount to get the total amount property set in there. And last one left, that is an update client ordered handler. So we are going to update the client orders. So here it is an admin who can do that. Okay, so search for this order ID, and now when you have it, you can update it. So the state equal to this state coming in here, and that is the date. Then you can now save changes. So admin can update the state, okay, and the date. Aside from that, admin cannot update the user's data again. It is the user's order is for the date and now the state. So these are the two features that the admin, or the two properties admin can make amendment to them. Okay. So now that we are done with our queries and handlers, what we're going to do here is we need to register this query or this handlers in the dependency injection container. So go to your service container and let's register them here. So let's go to the service container, and now we need to register our service created as our queries. So down here we can add, we're going to add a mediator, and we're going to specify the register service from assemblies. We specify any of the handler that we created .assembly. Then here we want to also register the scope, or that is the DB context factory that we created. So we need to add it as scope. Then you can see that's the interface in here, and that's the implementation as well. So once you're done with this, the next one is you're going to work on the UI. Okay. Now before we do that, I want us to add from the extension. I want us to add this class. Now this class, the default claims, that's the name that I gave. It comprises of the claims. Okay, so that's the manage user, add, delete, update, and read. You're going to be using this to update the user. If you want to change the user's maybe claims, we want to use them. So that's the reason why we're creating a static class and now setting them in here. We want to actually skip typing it in there. Okay, so then later on, maybe if you want to update it, you know where to go, and it makes it easy for you to locate the file and now do the modification that you want. That's the reason why I'm doing it here. But if you don't mind, you can also do it in there. When we get there, you can also do it in there. Trust me. Do like this so you can skip any future errors. Okay. So in the web UI, let's go to the import and add all our using statements in here. So everything that we're going to be using, I want to add them in here. Okay, so these are just the links, the namespaces that we are using to skip future errors. Okay, now when you take a close look, we haven't created the state yet, but don't worry, we're going to create them soon. You see, we're injecting some stuff like a nav manager, authentication state provider. We have the iAccount service, that's the service that we created, iService provider that we created. iService provider, we did not create iService provider. That is default, so we can use this to authenticate a policy. And we have the JS, as you know, we used to call JavaScript fast in there. We have generic home header state, we have user active, admin active, and custom authorization service. You're going to create this service in there, and when you get there, I'll show you what this service is going to do. Okay, so let's have this namespace added in here. Then we're going to create our hubs, our states, our general folder, our sidebar, and our navigation bar. That's what we're going to be using to have our navigations, our sidebar. I want to group this, so that's the reason why I'm creating a lot of folders here, so I can have these object grouped. Good. So let's say we have this. Now let's go in there and create the first navigation bar. We're going to create the first folder in here. So from the component, so let's start designing our UI. Let's go to navigation. I'm going to copy this navigation bar because we have not created this. That's the reason why we have this underlined. Now let's create a folder in that. So from the component layout, I'm going to open this and I'll create a folder in here and I name it as navigation bar. Okay, so we have this folder created. So we need to create a component for this, and I'm going to name this as nav items. So I'm going to create a component in the navigation bar folder that we just created, and it's going to be nav items. So in that nav items, I have just a list of this, and in here I'm going to have this logout form, and we can have access to this to get the if user is authenticated or not. We want to get a name, and now from that name we can display the name here. So you want to have something like drop down. As soon as the user clicks on that drop down, you're going to click on logout. Aside from that, when you resize the view into your mobile screen, we are changing the logo. So the logo must be actually small size in here. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to also create one component for that, and I'm going to name it as on mobile screen logo. It's just about only an image. Now we're going to add the image there, but for now this is an image name, so you make sure that when adding the image, there's going to be the name and the extension for this image. We're going to make this as interactive. If I click on this, I want to navigate to the home page. Okay, that's what we are doing. Very simple one. Good. So we're done with the navigation bar. Now we're going to create our sidebar, because we're going to have a sidebar for the mobile view and also for the desktop or the large screen view. So create a folder in the layout and I name it as sidebar. And now within that sidebar, I'm going to create a brand and the content. Okay, so from here, I'm going to have maybe the brand on top. Let me create a folder for this, the component, and it's going to be brand. So this brand is just an, as you can see, it's an image. Okay, so sidebar brand image, and I'm going to create a content. So brand end, I'm going to create content, and this will be the sidebar content itself. So with this, I'm going to have the content in here. It is just a list, and I can see just a list. And now here we are using a JavaScript to navigate, and the same thing is going to be a drop down. And here we're going to use if it is what can manage user. This is a policy, and this is a claim that we're going to check. So this is claim that we're going to check in here. Now the whole thing here, you can see it is an authorize. Before you can have access to the list in here, you must have in the policy of what administration policy. And with the administration policy, the managers, if you have the manage user set to true, you know, when creating the claims, we set manage user to false. So if you can have set to true, that's the only when you can see this. So you can see here we are using this claim to manage the view. Good. Then we have the product, categories, and allocations, and these are the JavaScript link that we're going to use. So here we're using the JavaScript to navigate to that page in there. Good. And the next one that we have in here, it is just an admin others and also the client others. So authorized by user policy, so user can see this. This one is what? Admin. So admin can also see this. Remember that from this here, this is what? The admin policy. So admin can see this. If you're administrator or you're manager, you can see that. And even within that, we are using can manage property to check if you have access to user management or any other feature that has been restricted by the claim. And here is for a client. So if you are a client, the user, you can see this. And we have a math Blazor. This is going to be the math divider, just a horizontal line. Then we have the system info version 1.0.0. I just added this. And before you can see this, you must be authorized. It doesn't matter whether you're an administrator or you're a user. I just added authorized without policy. Okay. Then here we get in the state. So custom authorization service. Then you want to authenticate, get the custom claim checker. We pass in the state in here. That is the state. Then you get the user. And I also want to pass in the claim. So you remember that we created a static class and a default claims. You want to check if you have this manage user set to true. That is when you can have access to that. So default is set to false. And as soon as the page initializes, it's going to make a search for this. It's going to call that method. As soon as authenticated, you're going to check, do you have this manage claim set to true? If yes, then this is going to be yes. And if so, then you're going to see what you're supposed to see. If not, then the other one, yes. Okay, so you know we created this. It means we have to create our custom authorization service. Now this service enables us to check. This is a generic service, and now you pass in the claim and it checks if that claim has a property of true. If yes, they're going to return true. It's going to return false. Okay, so it is a class, a generic class, which returns true or false based on the claim that you specify. It gets the claim from the state provider or the user from here, and find out the state of that user, the claim from that state, and the value for that state or the value for that claim. So it get the user, the state of the user if authenticated, and now the claims, the manager user or the managed user claim, and the value of that claim, is it true or false? Then it returns it. So if it is true, then access granted. If it is false, access denied. Good. So let's create this state first. So before we do that, I want us to let's finish this. So we have our sidebar, then we have that is a content. Okay. Now let's go in and create a custom authorization service. So you can go in there, and now where we created our identity folder, we can create this as an interface and an implementation. So I custom authorization service, and it returns a bool, and it was custom claim checker. It takes in the user and the specific claim that you want to pass in. When you go to the implementation, we check. It checks the state. Are you authenticated? If no, return false. If yes, check, do you have this claim? If no, return false. If yes, get a claim. Convert it to Boolean, and is it true? Return true. Is it false? Return false. So this is a generic one, and it is to check the claims that we set up in there. Okay, so in here we have this set, and I want to go to the import. This must be solved. We see navigation bar, this should be solved. And also this iCustom the in-service is also, yeah, it has been found, so it's going to be solved soon. All right, so let's save this. So aside from this, we need to also create our footer, and this footer will be in the same layout. So this footer that we have in here, it is just a class event management system, nothing much, and that is it for the footer. I have an image down here to display. So now let's go there to the main layouts, and the package that we installed, Netcode-Hub.packages.template.breeze, we need to set up the layout in here. So I'm going to clear everything from here, and I'll paste in this. Now this is coming from the Breeze main layout template. It's from the package that I uploaded, and in here we have this inner template, and here we are using this authorize. So it tells you that this side you must be authorized to see this. Okay, this is coming from the brand, and now this brand here, it is a sidebar brand. So we have the sidebar, and that is a brand. So this one, that's what we are referring to. Let's see. All right, so when you build this, this is going to work out. Then we have, let's see, okay, so then we have our navbar template. In there we can specify the theme dark, or you can specify it to light. Then in there we have our body template. That's where you pass in the body. We have the nav item end template, and that's going to be the navbar end side. We have the start and we have the end. Now with the end, we want to display this nav item that you created. Then we have on mobile screen logo template. We specify the package or the component that we created on mobile screen logo to display that small image. And now if I click on it, it does locate me to the home page. So if you want to use my template, there's the main layout. This is the structure that you have to follow. Okay, good. Now once you're done with this, we can go ahead. Maybe we have to build this, but first let's finish the folder creating in order to skip the error specified in here. So this template has some CSS and JS file that we need to make reference to. And also, since you're going to be using Syncfusion and Blazor, you have to also reference the JavaScript files for Syncfusion, the CSS file for Syncfusion, and JavaScript file for Blazor, and also CSS for Blazor. So in the app.razor, we need to replace with this. And here, what we're doing here is we are making a reference to this content.netcode-hub.packages.ui.template.breeze. Then CSS, you have the bootstrap. It has its own bootstrap using, so you can make reference to this, or you can use a customized or installed bootstrap. It's still going to work. Then we have the CSS. You have to include the style. Then here it is using material design. So it has in predefined material design icons. If you want to also install new one, you can also do that, and I'll skip this. It's still going to work. Then from the Syncfusion, we are using this content syncfusion.blazor.themes.bootstrap5.css, and using this Syncfusion blazor.min.js. So these are the Syncfusion files I need to add. These are Netcode-Hub packages files I need to use for the template, and that is the Blazor file that you need to also use. So you have the Netcode, Syncfusion, and our Blazor. Okay. And now here we're going to create our own custom JS file. So for this matter, we have to make reference to this, and we need to create this file in there. Now the reference here, it is a JS folder and the file known as custom.js. So www root folder, we're going to create a JS folder and a file known as custom.js. So this is just a JavaScript file, which is going to get the element by ID. It's going to just toggle them, hide some of them, add some styles, and so forth. So when you hover it, it's going to do some magic and yeah, some designs in there. Okay, then that is it. So just add, you're going to add this style in there. Okay, not this style, this JavaScript. Okay, so you're going to add this in there. Okay, so now that we are done with this, we need to also update our route.razor. We cannot, okay, we have this authorized route view already, and that's great. We did that in the previous video, and that's great. Now we're going to create a hub, and this hub is going to be used for real-time notification. So let's say this is going to be used in the product orders. So if a client order product, then the admin must get notified. The same thing applies to if the admin cancels an order, the owner or the client must also get notified. So in that, we have to use SignalR. We've installed the package already, so we need to create the hub. So let's create the hub in there, and I'm going to create a class which can be used in any of the components. Okay, so let's create a service which will be used in other components to start or to join connection. As soon as it's open, the hub is open, we want to join it. So in that, we can put that in the www root folder. Not the www root folder. That is the default or the root file. So you can see I created a folder known as hubs. Now within this hubs, we have this communication hub. Now this communication hub inherit from this hub. And now you can see client.sendAll. We're going to notify to this is a method that we're going to send. And now there's an ID. Okay, so that's the client ID. The current person who is performing the task, we want to get the ID and now pass it on. So you're passing the ID in here. When you go to the Netcode connection service, you can see when the app starts, you create a constructor for this. We create the communication in here. We create the URL. Then we start the hub. Okay. We can also get if the hub is connected or not. So here, get hub connection is equal to this. We call this hub connection. And now this hub connection is going to start as soon as this method is called, because this method is found in the constructor. And now when this method is called, constructor will be the first line to run. So as soon as it runs before this get called, by then this hub would have gotten the necessary connection that it needs, and we can now assign it to this. And now when you call this, we can get the hub connection. That's great. Good. After creating this, we need to also create our states. Now, what are you going to do with the states? We're going to populate the processing. We're going to group them. Processing, you're going to get processing, delivering, delivered, and uncancelled. So this is limited to orders. Okay. So in that, we need to call our handler that we created so we can get this in there. And now when the value of this changes, you want to get the whole page notified. So that's the reason why we need to create our state. And now this state contains an action. This action here, we're going to subscribe in the page. And as soon as the value of the property changes, this action is going to be invoked. And as soon as this action is invoked, all the page which have subscribed to this action will get notified or re-rendered. And now the current values are going to be updated. Good. That's what we need to do. So that's all about this state. So in the state, I have admin, I have user state. I also have change password state. So this is a change password state. I think I've used this a couple of times in my videos. So this is going to switch between the type of the password, that's from text to password, so that the user can see the password off and on. And also, when you check the admin state, we create an admin active order count. So this is going to get count. As you can see from here, we need this service provider from the default one, and it is coming from service provider is coming from which one is an interface that we can inject in here. So if I click on this, let's see, it is coming from this namespace. That's the namespace system. So this is a default one that we're going to be using. And in here, when you go to, let's see, that is the states. So that's the admin state. Now here, this service provider that we are using, what is it going to do? It's going to be used to create a scope. And I know we are creating a separate DB context factory for each of the handler. So when you create that, you must also create scope for that. And now the scope will make sure that it gets its own DB context as we've done in the handler, and now it utilizes in there. So in that, that's the reason why we need to use this service provider. Now here we create a scope, and now we're going to call this handler. So this is just a query, as you can see from here. So get generic orders query. And when you see here, this is an admin. So for admin, this must be null. User ID must be null before, because for admin, we don't need any user ID. And we set this to true. So this is admin, we set this to true. So if it is true, then it's going to get us the result. Now from that response, we can extract processing, delivering, delivered, cancelled, and allowed. So anytime that we get a value out of this, we want to invoke this. So that's the reason why we created an action here. Okay, so anytime this gets called and the value gets changes, this is going to be invoked. And now when this is invoked, any page subscribed to this will get notified and re-rendered. Now we do the same thing to the client. So we go to the client, and here we're going to do the same. So when you check the user, you will see from here we also doing same, just that here we pass in the user ID. Okay, so where are you getting this user ID? Anytime that we call this method, you have to extract the user ID from the current or state. Then we can pass in the ID in here, and now we can use the ID to make this query. When we get to do the same, and I invoke this method. Okay, so you can see we have user state and we have admin state. Now when you go to the admin again, we can see we have generic home header. Now what is it going to do? Now this generic home header, it is for both. Actually, this shouldn't be the admin, because it's going to be used by both. I think it should be maybe outside the administration, but well, it's okay. So here we have the state name, we have its admin, then we have an event in here, and now get processing other button clicked. So when button is clicked, when the app loads up, we're going to have these processing tabs, all these tabs on top. Any page that you visit, you're going to have these tabs on top. Okay, that's the processing, the delivering, delivered, and the cancelled. Maybe if you are messing up, you can just check the preview. These buttons are on top of each page that you visit. Now we want to click on it, navigate to the home page, and now extract all others which have that state. So in that, we need to use a state so we can subscribe and get the page re-rendered. And that is why we're creating this generic header state. Okay, so in that, we call this method, we pass in the state name. We check if the person is an admin. If an admin, we pass it on here. Then we can assign the value from this state to this, and we invoke this method. So when we invoke, any page subscribed to this is going to be get changed or get re-rendered, and the values are going to be changed in that component as well. Okay, so don't worry, let's get to the implementation, and you're going to understand this better. So when we go to our components, and from the pages, we can have our general page, and this general page actually contains only a component, and this component is known as a generic spinner button. So it's just a spinner button, whereby here you can specify in the button class and also the type. So this is used when you click on the button to tell the users that there's a process going on. Okay, so this has a spinner in the button, and that's what that is doing. So it has no interactive, just you pass in the text, and now you pass in the button class. So these are the default values set. So if you don't provide any value to it, the text is going to be loading, and the button is going to be what? Primary, which is going to be blue, type, and etc. Okay, so we have this. So now that we are done with this, we're going to work on the admin page. Admin can add user, admin can manage user by changing the user roles and a lot, and admin can also see user activities. We've created DTOs, commands, and handlers for all of this. So it's about time to create the UI. So let's do that. I cannot be going through the UI one after the another. UI takes a lot of time to do it, and we have limited time to take you through everything. So with the output that you see, you can design something like that, or you can also grab the source code and you can also go through. So from here, I'm going to the content page. Maybe from these pages, I'm going to have identity page here. Now from the identity page, I can add maybe administration here. So I have administration folder added, and now in that I have these 4 components. Import contains all the using statements limited to add user page, manage user page, and our user management activity log. Okay, so if I click on this, it has these namespaces in there, and we have this iAccount service also injected in here. We have this generic home header state available, admin active order state count available in here, Then this is authorized. So before you can access any of the pages in there, you must have a policy of what? You must be in the policy of administration policy. This tells you that it is only manager and admin who can have access to this. Now from the add page, this is what we have. In order to use the package, we need this admin header. We need this 3-section template. Now this 3-section template is going to divide the whole page into 3. We're going to have the first one, that is a column 9. We're going to have column 3. They're going to have column 12 at the bottom. Now column 9 is going to be the content. Column 3 is going to be the site. And now footer is going to be the last one. So we're going to have 3-section template. Okay. Now in that here, this is going to be we're going to have banner in here. So let's say this is going to be the banner. We haven't created the banner yet, but we're going to create it soon. So let's copy this and let's go to the pages. Now in that we have the content in here. Now in that content, we're going to create maybe a component, and I'll name this component as banner. Now this banner is going to handle the display of the product. Let me just find if I can run the preview app to show you. Yeah, so it's ready. So this is what I'm talking about, this one. So these are the banner, and you can see we have it displayed down here. When you go to any other page, you're also going to have it in the same. Okay, so this is what we're going to create. So, okay, let me move it down there. And now in here, we're going to have all these methods in here. Yes. When you check up down here, you can see a lot of UI has been created down. And now here, this is for administration policy. So it means that this is for the admin and this is for the user. This is going to be used by both admin and user. Okay. And when you go through this group from this code, you can see we are having this auth state from the user. We have a list of get order response, and that's the user orders and admin orders. So we have a user in here, and this is related to a client, so we can have access to the user ID. We have these private properties created. These are decimals, so because they are numbers that we want to display as an amount, and we have some as integer that we want to display in there. So the same thing applies to this for the client and this for the admin in here. When the page initializes, we're going to load default. So there's a load default. Now we want to check, we want to get the user, and now check if the claims that first or default, we have the type. The type is equal to user. So if the person's claim has a user role, it means you want to get the user, then run this. Else we want to run the admin. Okay. So it is an admin and run the admin. If it is a user, get the user. And now these claims are going to be attached anytime the person logs in. Either you're an admin or you're a user. And now we call this method in here. So this is going to populate it. So we see others. This is going to get us a list. We're going to sum up. We're going to get this. This is just a simple mathematics that I am doing to get the orders, the sales, and a lot. So just go through the UI in here, and you understand that. You see. So this is only today, 0%. So you find the percentage of it out of the orders for only today. So product orders for today, we want to get them here. This one is an ordered product. You want to get the whole sum in here. Okay. And this for the last month, you want to get them in here. And then the percentage since last month, you want to also get them in here. And then that is a product quantity ordered. So for now, that's a gross product quantity ordered. And this for only today. So we are doing the same thing for the admin and now for the user. So that's the reason why I have a lot of these properties in here, and we having this percentage in there, as you can see from this. Okay, so we do the same thing to the admin, and that is all. Okay, so we have this set, and now when you come to the view, it's just a matter of having the row. We have this column X12 and a lot. So you can see we creating this column rows, and we specify the values in there. So we are displaying what we have, and that is it. So it is for admin. If it's a user, you are doing the same thing. So when you check this, You can see it is the same thing that we are repeating, just that here we're changing the values out of this. So you can see we are admin switching policy, that's a user policy. Okay, now let's go back to the solution. Then we are in the add user page. So here we having this then you can see we have a banner set. It is no more we're not having here again. Then we have this column 9 display this, column 3 display this. So 3 plus 9 making 12. We have a full page in there. Then have the footer set beneath. That is all. We have our toast. We want to display our toast. We pass in the use a Netcode-Hub toast package. Then set the reference in here. You can specify the duration. If not, the duration is set to 3000 milliseconds. That's 3 seconds. Defaultly, you can override that by having this duration property specified. Okay. Then here we have our breadcrumb. That's the package that we installed. This breadcrumb tells you here. There's a breadcrumb. If I click on add maybe user, if I click on this add user, it has navigate us to the add user page. So you can see that this is a breadcrumb. So it tells you the navigation, the current page that you are, and the previous one. So you can see from home and add new user. Okay, so in that breadcrumb you need to specify it in here. So we have this Netcode-Hub breadcrumb, and I need to specify the list in there. Now when you check this becomes a link that you can click to the home page. So this becomes is an app/home page. If I click on this, I can navigate to the home page, as you can see from here. So it's a matter of, it's also a link that you can click on. And how do you set this? So when you go down here, we have it in the form of a list. So when you check this, you see this property takes in a dictionary. So have a look. When you come, you can see we have the home, and then that is the link. So it has the home, the display, and then the link. And now here it is not, because you don't have, this is a current page and we don't want to give it any link. Okay, so we have only this two. If you have more, you can just add more to this. So this package can be used in any other project as well. Okay, then we have our tags for user state. In here we're going to populate our policies, what we have already, so the user can select. You know, when user clicks on add new, you can select what you can select this policy, and that is what we are doing down here. If I click on register, we want to await tags or delay. We want to call this service create user account. Then we want to save it to the activity that this method has been called. You pass in the description from the message or from the service. Then we have the date and the flag and etc. set in there. If it is true, then we're going to use this toast component. We want to show toast access, and if it is false, you want to also show an error toast. Okay, when the page rendered, we want to check if we want to check the claim. So if you do not have manage user to true, then please navigate to access denied, because before you can access this content, you must have this set to true. Okay, so let's see if I open this. Like now, this is an administrator, so I can come here. Now if I log out and I'm logging as manager, so I'm here, I'm going to log in as manager. And now let's see if manager has access to this. So you can see manager has no access. You cannot even see this. But if we try to navigate to this, then let's see what happens. So maybe let's go to the component down here, and on top we have to, let's grab this. Okay, then let's go to the, and now we don't have access to the user. So if I try to navigate through the address, see what happened. So you can see I'm to access denied, so you do not have access, and that is exactly what we are doing in here. Okay, then what else again? We are also, we see when the page initializes, we are connecting to the service created from the hub connection, from the SignalR connection. So that in case you want to send anything here, we've already subscribed, so we can have access to that response or the request. So you can see from the notified in here, we subscribe to this event, which takes in the string of client ID. And now in that, we're going to call this method call when notified. So with this, you see we are calling this administrative or admin active order count dot get active order count. So anytime a user make a request, this method is going to get called. As soon as this method gets called, we want to also get this method called. So we are joining method to method, right? And as soon as this method gets called, this page is subscribing. This method has an event that invokes as soon as it calls it. And now when it invokes it, there's a component known as admin header. This method subscribes to this invoke method, and this method is going to get reloaded. And now when this method gets reloaded, the variable set, that is the processing, the delivering, the delivered, the cancelled values, or the variables are going to be changed. And when they change, it's going to display the current values in this admin header or admin home header. Okay, and that is what I'm talking about in here. So when I click on the home, so from here you can see as soon as a client make a request, an order, this has to get changed. Okay, so when we subscribe to that event, it gets changed, and now this header here also gets notified. So now it gets changes, then this is going to get refreshed or reloaded, and then the values of this is going to change. Either it's going to subtract or it's going to add up to that. Okay, the same thing applies to any of these. So we're going to create some component for this admin header and also a client header. So in the content, we can have our admin header. So that's our home header, which has the button displayed from here. This button, that's what I'm talking about. So I get some buttons in here like that, and that is what you see. And you see that here we are getting, as we click on that, we want to navigate to the page. So here we have a method get processing other button clicked, and it's coming from this home generic state. So we want to navigate to the page and then get the selected state. So you can see we are passing the state in here, and now this is true. This true me tells you that this one is an admin, and if it is admin, then we don't need to specify any parameter as username. We can get everything from there. Okay, and now you see here we are subscribing to this admin state. So anytime that state changes or that method invoked, this component is going to get re-rendered, and the count in here is going to get changed. As you can see from here, these counts are going to get changed as well. The same thing applies to the client. So when you check the client homepage, it's the same thing, just a duplicate that I made, and you're also subscribing to the same state, but here it's subscribing to user state. Okay, and here instead of you calling this method as an admin, we have to specify the parameter as what user ID. Before that, we have to get the ID from this state service, and that is the reason why we are getting the name identifier. Okay, that gives you the ID of the current user. So after doing that, you can see when the page renders, you can see we have this. So these are skeleton loaders from Syncfusion. So I just created a component down here from the content pages or the content folder, created a component known as home skeleton loader, and now in there I am using SF skeleton. The shapes are square and these are the widths. So in that I have this down and I have this on top as graph, as you can see from here. So that's what I'm going to use to load anytime it is loading, because from the home page we are going to render it as stream rendering. So we want to display something before the actual content get displayed. And now again, when you check this add user page, you can see from here that we're having this change password type, and I'm resetting this password state to change password type. So in that you have this component, we have this using this floating text is from this Netcode-Hub packages, one of my packages that I use, and now this is progressive validation. So as soon as you type, it does the validation for you. Okay, and in that is where we are checking. So you want to switch the type from text to password, depend on the click of the user. So here the first one here is you want to show. If show password, then click on that, and this is going to change the type to what? Text. If hide, you're going to change the type to what? Password. Then the password is going to be hidden. Now we have this generic spinner in here. If I click on this create user, I want to show this spinner, and I'm going to tell you that there's a process going on, so please wait. And you can see we have a test as we're creating. We have this a button class btn success. We have it set in there. Then we have our validation summary, as you know already, to display any errors when we have any error from the service. And now the last method in this here, it is a state button clicked. Now if you have a look here, you can see when you're at the home page, I want to click on this processing, and if I click on the processing, see what happens. Check the address bar, click on this, and you can see it is navigating to this app.administration, then product that others, and I'm passing in the processing. Okay, and you can see I'm having only the processing, so we are handling it in here. So for each component we want to handle it there, and that's the reason why we have this method. So if I click on it, you first have the admin URL to the list. We have it in here. Then we check if the state of the admin is true, it will navigate to this admin page. And now here, add user page here is only admin can have access to. That's the reason why we are not having this else navigate to user. Okay, but some page you're going to have else, then we're going to navigate to the user page. But for now, admin is limited to add user page is limited to admin. That's the reason why we are not having any state change. No, we are not having the else statement. Yes. Okay, so now that we are done with this, when you go to the next one, you can see we have this manage user page, and on this page is going to allow the user to manage. And now here we having two section templates. So this is going to give you column 12 and now column 12, column 12. The first column is for the content, the second column is for the footer. And in that you have a footer template. So instead of specifying column 12 template again, you can specify the footer template and pass in your footer to get it displayed. Now in this column 12, you have this admin header, the same thing on top. We have the breadcrumb also still on top. And in the breadcrumb, you can specify background color, reload page on a click. And yes, you can specify these properties in there. So you can try your hands on it. And now here we are looping through the users from here, and now we create a table. So we are using this mat tree view. Okay, so that is a tree view from here. So if I click on product and I go to, let me log in as admin. And from here you can see I have this manage user, so I'm using this mat tree view. So if I click on this, because I have the drop down, click on this and I have the drop down, and that is what we are doing from our source here. Okay, so using this mat tree view, and now you want to get the value from here, that is the email. You want to get the value here as what? The create update. Now this is going to turn to true or false. So these are all Boolean expression, so they're going to be true or false. So when you check the output in here, you can see we have update is true, delete true, read true, and etc. Yes, we have them specified in there. Then we have a button down there, and that is known as what? Edit or edit. So when you check here, you can see we have edit down here. And if we click on this edit, then we're going to make our component, that's the modal component, popped up for you to edit that. And that is a modal component. This is coming from Netcode-Hub packages.component.modal. So you can specify a bootstrap class for that, and this one is open. You can also specify that in there. Okay, you can also specify custom style as well. Then in that you can have your edit form to get everything set. So if I click on this, what will happen? Click on edit, you have this. So this is what I'm talking about. So you're gonna have true, false, that you can change it, and after that you're gonna save it in there. So when you take a close look, you have the same thing in there. So you checking up, and now checking if it is true, then set the current selected to true, else then set this to false. Okay, meaning it is not selected, then set to false, and now move on. So this one is an input select. We have the same input select, because when you check here, we are going to just select. They are all drop down, drop down, drop down, drop down. You can then use third-party component to handle that. By else, I use a default one. So you can use a default third-party like Simfishing drop down, Mad Blazor drop down, or any other third-party drop down to handle that. Okay, so we are doing the same thing for the read. So we are doing it for delete, read, get, delete, and add. Okay, then we have manage user, and here too we're also displaying the row name, because when you check here we have the row name in there. You see the role name as well. So we're also displaying the role name. Before we display, we must populate the role name and I get the current one selected on top. And we are also doing that from here. Then at the end, when you come here, you can see this is the manage user. So down here, manage user set to true or false. Last one, manage user. Then you have the button, and that is what we have in here. So that's the button. Click on this button. This button is going to get load, and then you have saving. Then this is going to be hidden, and after it saves, you have it. This is a toast to display the message from the service. Then we can move on with that. So after you get it saved from here, then you can call this, check the state. If it's true, then call this toast component to display that. Okay, now when you check it is the same. When you check the page, if I click on user management, let me close this, click on user management and click on activity log, I use the same mad Blazor tree. So I use that to display all activities which are taking place in the system by the user or by manager, the admin or manager, and I group them based on date. So you can see here we have this was ordered placed successfully and executed by what, shop B. So shop B executed this, place this order. So you can actually, and the date was 24th April. So you can actually add a lot to this to keep track of all activities that go on in the system. And in that, this is what we did. So when you go to manage user page, not this manage, you're done with the manage user page, you go into this activity. So we have this Netcode-Hub breadcrumb also, admin header still there, 3 section layout, column 9, column 3 is for the footer, the sidebar, and we have this. So when you check this from the UI space, you see we have this, the sidebar in here. This is the content column 9, this is column 3, and that is the banner. Okay, then we have the footer down here. So that makes it as column 3. And in here, we are looping through this, creating an item in here for this mad tree view item. Okay. Okay, so this must be banner. So that is a banner that you want to display in there. Then we have a breadcrumb specified. This is a hub connection. We're also doing same. Then we are grouping the list in according to our date using this I grouping interface, specifying the date time and also the response in there. Okay, so when the page loads, get activities, get call from the service, check if the user is what? If the user is had this manage user as false, return. If not, continue on. Then get activities. So get activities is going to call the activities method, and I'm going to get these activities for you and then display it on the screen. So that's really what we're doing. Very simple as well. Now you can see we are copying and pasting the same method that we did from the SignalR connection, so that even when we are at this page and the user orders, we can still get notified. So when you check this, we don't want to be inside the home page before we get notified when a client creates a request or cancel an order. Okay, so where any page that we are, we want to make sure that this request get notified here. So we need to make a duplicate of this all the time. So that's the reason why we created a service. And as you can see from here, we are calling from the service. So we don't need to create any new instance service. No, we're using the old one and to create that. Okay, and that is this one. So the next one that I need to do here is to have a look on the product, the category, and on the location. Then we are done with our project. So from the content folder, I'm going to create another folder and I name it as product. And in there, we're going to have all our packages or our components related to product, category, and location. So from here, from product, we have category, we have location, and others, right? We have product details and our product page. So this is a product page. We have the same breadcrumb displayed, column 12 template, 2 section template specified. And this must be accessed by this person with a policy or administration policy. So you must be an admin to access this product.manage. Okay, so in that we have an SF grid. So when you have a look in here from the products, this product, we see you have this SF grid down here, right? We have these tools here, and so that's what we are doing in here. So we have this SF grid, and this is a column, so we're going to specify the columns in here. So this column here is going to give us the image. You want to have the date, the ID, the name, serial number, price, quantity. Okay, then you want to have the category, location, and description. So we have that from our grid, and we have modal 2. If I click on open, show product page, and now show confirmation page. So we are using the same model that we have. We are going to use it dynamically. We can use it to create tables or to create records. We can also use it to confirm. So in order to do that, you can see we're using this if else. So this is for product page. This section allows you to add a new product, and then this is for confirmation. So this also allows you to confirm, to display or to confirm, and before you delete or before you do any action. Okay, and each has a button. So you can see from this confirm, you have a delete button down here. This is for delete, so you have it confirmed in here, and when you click on it, this method gets called, confirm delete. Okay, so that's what we have at the modal title down here, and that's an SF grid. If you've used SF grid before, then you know what this is. If you haven't, then I have a video on that. You can check the video description to know how to use SF grid well, and that will help you a lot to understand this. Okay, now when the page loads, this is what we are doing. You can see we have this breadcrumb, the same thing specified, and it has been spoken of already. We have this Boolean expression to show product page and to show confirmation page as well. Now there is a Netcode-Hub file upload. Now you know, if I want to add file, if I click on this, I have this pop-up, and as soon as I select an item from here, I have this loaded indicator. Okay, so this loader here tells you the progress of the file upload, and also as soon as it uploads, it's going to return two states. First state is going to be the base default string, and you're also going to return the file itself. So you don't need to create any base default string code again. Just use the package, and it's going to get the file converted to base default string. So when you have a look from here, we have to use the package down here. So when you check this, there is the display. So let me close this from here, and I want to check this modal. So you can see this is the modal, and now this here is the content show product. So if I open this, is the content of the modal. Because we have floating number, input number, floating text area, Netcode-Hub file, and you create a reference of it. And now this notify. So if you see this notify returns file model. Now this file model contains the base64 string and an iBrowser file. So this returns the file itself and the base64 string of that file or that image. Okay, then you can get going. Okay, and now here this required extension. So you can also specify the required type. If it is an image, you're going to have the base default string, but if it is not image, well, then you cannot do that. Then you can get the file itself from the iBrowser file, and it also works. So in any way, it still works. Okay, now this is specified. These are the list of parameters or the extension that you can specify. So required what extensions, and let me go down here, and you know, from the extension we are requiring only JPG and our PNG. Now if I click on save, what I'm going to do, so this is going to get categories. You know, before you can add products, you must select categories, and I believe you know that. So if I click on add product, you have to select category. So you first have to populate the category here, and that is what we did. So when you check here, you can see we call this categories, we get this allocation, and we're going to make a call calling this with the mediator, calling the category query. and also querying the word location query. Okay, after that, get product query, so we can use that in the use this product query in the handler to get the products that we want, and I get them in here. Okay, now this is the toolbar item that we need. So when you check this, if you check the UI, you can see we have these toolbar items. All these are the items that we specified up, and that is what I specified down here. So view, edit, PDF, Excel, and print. Now if I click on any, what will happen? After that, creating these toolbar items, you can see when you go to the list down here, you're going to specify the tools in the SF grid. So that's an SF grid. The tools are here. These are the tools. Okay, so you specify the tool from that end. Then when each tool is clicked, what are you going to do? That is found down here. So if each tool is clicked, it's over here. Yes. So if it is clicked, then default grid.export to Excel, export to PDF. It's very simple, just line of code. You're going to work with it. Print to print, and also view to this. So check if row is selected. So you make sure you select row before you can click on view. Okay, because before you can select let's see. So I click on, if I click on view, just I must have this one, toast, no row selected. I have to select it before I can click on view. You see, and that is what we're doing in here. Okay, and that is here we're going to use for confirm delete. So if you want to delete it, we click on this, then you can see we calling this delete command. We pass in the selected product ID, then we save to the activity that something has been, this method has been called, and our product is deleted. Okay, the return or the results that you come in here, we're going to check. Is it true? Then show success. If it's false, show error. Now you want to call product again when only it is true, because if it is true, it tells you that product has been removed. Then refresh it, call it again, get a current one. But in case there's an error in it, it means the product was unable to be removed and the product still persists. So there's no need for us to call the service again. So the same approach that we are using for this product page, it is the same thing that we are using for, from the detail page, we are going to receive an ID from here, and this is the policy that guiding this. And I think that just using the div class to display that, because when you check this, there's an output. So you can also do something like this. Tells you the serial number, the category, the location, the price, the quantity, the name in here, then the product name, the product description, date, and then the product ID. Then you have this on top. You have also your this one, and that is the header on top in here. Okay, and that is what we are doing here. So it's a matter of when you check this, we having this get product response in here. Then when the parameter changes, we want to call the service and pass in the ID. Okay, since we have parameter down here, this is a parameter of ID. It is a string, and so when it is called, then we want to call the query, get that specific product, and then display it in here. Now when you go to the category page, it is the same thing. For the category page, we are not using SF grid. We use just a table, Netcode-Hub table, data grid, just a table to display. So if I open this and I go to product categories, you can see that we have a table down here, and we have a crate. If I click on crate, you can see we have this model. So the same thing that we are also implementing, the same idea that we are implementing down here. We have this data grid, and all these are the parameters that you can specify. We have a table row, then we have a table body by looping through them, and now displaying something in here. So you can see we have a pagination set up here. So when you check this, we have pagination, and for pagination, we need to get the skip and tick from here, and this is syncfusion pagination. So you must specify the SF pager down here, the page size, the number of item count, and the page items count, the item click. So this is the method that we need to define. And let's see. So with this must be the banner. And I have confirmation. So I also have a confirmation package, and you can also use to confirm that. So instead of you overriding the modal to using the modal twice for adding product and for showing confirmation, you can also use only the confirmation, okay, and it's going to work as well. All that you need to do here is to create a reference of it, pass in your instruction, and now in there, well, if I click on yes, this action will be called, then you know that yes, that's been confirmed, and I can now go ahead and remove it or do whatever thing that I want to do with it. You see, and that's what we are doing in here. So for this too, you can see this is a content, and our edit form, we want to add a name of the item. That's a category. Now we save it, and now you see we have this breadcrumbs model title. Set it to, we're going to set it, since we're going to update it, we want to dynamically set it. So create new category, update category, then and so forth. Okay, so when the page initializes, we want to also check if you have access to the delete claim as yes. That is what you want you to maintain. Okay, so can delete here is what we want to check. If you have the delete access to yes, then go to the delete section. So you can see from here that you have delete from here. So you can see that this is delete. So we are checking if this is true. That is where I want you to delete this. You see? So if it is true, but in case it is not, then please show this. Now this has no on-click event, and now it is test secondary, so it is blur. So if I sign out like this, let me see this. This is admin, so I can see this. Let me sign out, and I'll log in as manager. And I'll go to product and others. Oh, that is category. So go to categories and manager. You can see from here, this is blur, right? So this is not clickable. Yes. And that's the reason why we're doing that. So we're checking if can delete is false, then you want to display this instead of the original one. Yes. So this method that we're doing here, or this component, we're going to create a duplicate of this, and now one is going to be the location, and one is going to be the category, because they have the same type, and we can make a duplicate of it, change the values or the variables in it, and now we are good to go. So that's exactly what we are doing in here. So get categories, we call the get categories query to get all the listed categories, and I display it in there. Now these are classes that I created, which actually adds some little star to this. So you can decide to skip that. You can see it has a little star to this. So these are just the star that I created to do that, but you can also skip it if you don't want to do that. And that is what we have in here. So all these are CSS, and they are found in the custom, the JS file that we linked in the app.razor component. Okay, so save it. You can also save that down here. Okay, now from saving, we have an ID, so we can check. You see, we can update it, and we can check this one. So we are update category. So we update it if the ID of this is not equal to queue.empty. But in case it is empty, then we are going to save it in here. Okay, so we are checking if it is not empty, meaning that we want to update that. But in case it is empty, then we want to save this as a new category, and that's what we are doing in here. Okay, now here it is when it is clicked SF pager. When it is clicked, then you want to skip and take the current, skip the page size specifying here as 10, then take 10 in there. So this is for the SF pager event that we can handle. Now there is for edit click. So you can see when it's clicked, we want to change the model title, change the ID holder, and I want to map the category into this category model. Then open model. The same thing applies to the delete. And now in here, if I click on confirmed, I want to now call this remove. So you can see we have this delete category command passing the ID holder, that's the category ID, and that is going to get deleted from the database. Okay, the same thing applies to the location. So we're doing same to location. So I just copy and paste and now change some couple of things, and that is all. Now when you go to the others, we have admin order, we have client others. So it is for the administration. Then admin can cancel order. Admin can also update order in here. But before you do that, you must select row first. So click on this, and now you can change the state in here, and now click on update order to get it updated. Okay. And now as soon as the order is being made, it is set to processing defaultly. We went through that in the overview. Okay. Now when you come here, we are using the same thing as you know this. Then we're using the SF grid. As you know, it's the same thing that we are doing. Just that here we're changing the model names in here from get order response, client name, order date, and etc. We're changing them. So it's the same thing that we're doing. Okay. So as you can see from that, it's the same thing. Then from here, we have a model. This model will allow us to change the state. So you can see from here that we have this other state in here as cancelled. We want to populate them in here. So we want to first search for the state from the selected one. If the state is cancelled, then we want to display as cancelled. You can see there's a select option, select. So you want to get the current one. That's why we're using this option, and we're using this option down here. Okay. So this is going to give us the current state as like this. If I click on this, and now you see this processing. So if I click on update, I might see the processing here. If this cancel, if I click on this update, I might see the cancelled in here. If I click on delivering, if I click on update, I might see the delivering in here. Okay, and that is what we are doing in here. So we search for the selected, and now we check the state. We set it as the selected value for this option, and that is all. So here you can also change the date, and now you have a button update. This is a generic button that's going to get clicked, and you're going to have a spinner as soon as you click on update it, and then wait for 30 seconds before it saves it. So when you go to the UI tool, this is the breadcrumb. The same thing. We have a toast that we're going to be using to display our toasts. We have this going to dynamically set or change the model. We have a toolbar. We've done that already. And this is a list that we created to hold the orders from here. Then when the page initializes, we call in user identity, we call in this get orders and our load toolbar. We also connect to the service, that's the SignalR, so that anytime a client makes a request, when we are in the orders, we can also get notified. When we get notified, please do call this method and now invoke this. When invoke it, it's going to get the project, the processing the state count from the handler. It's going to return it to the UI, so that the UI is going to can increase. So let's say the admin creates an order. The current order that we have is 1. Admin creates this one, click on create, and he gets the message that order has been placed. As soon as order has been placed, you must have your processing increase to 2. Okay, we did that also in the preview, so that's what we're doing in here. All right, I'm not sure I'll be able to take you through the whole thing in here because there's a lot. Project is a lot, and taking it through one after the another is going to be difficult for me. Okay, but I'll do my best and I'll take you through some of them. So that's why I need to have the view of it. Then maybe you can modify this, so you can even get a source code as well and try to modify it as well. So maybe at a certain point that you do not understand, you can let me know as well. Okay, and maybe one-on-one I can take you through it for you to get the understanding better if you think that place isn't clear for you. Thank you. All right, so that's what we are doing in here. All right, this is the toolbar click. We saw that in the previous video, so I need not to go over again. Now when it is clicked, cancel order is clicked, we want to check if we selected, then we want to do this. Now if check here, we're checking that if the cancel order, if the toolbar clicked is cancel order. So if I click on this, when you check the view in here and I click on this cancel order, if I have this row selected, okay, and if this is clicked, then that's what I want to do. I want to reset the model display. I want to dynamically render the component because I want to cancel. So before you cancel, I want to show, maybe I just want to do this. Yes, you see. So have a look. Click on this, cancel. This is what we are displaying in here. So I just want to do this. It is the same model. That's why we are modifying to see like this. Okay. So we have to use some CSS in here and adjust ourselves. So that's the reason why I'm using the CSS classes down here to handle that. Else, if it is an update order, then also display this. So let's say if it's an update order to click on this one, click on this update order. It's the same model, but the content has now drastically changed. Then we have this in here to change it. So one model, but we can use it more than once. Dynamic model. Mine get package supported, so you can use that anytime you want. Good. Okay, and that is if I click on confirmed. You know, when I click on, I just want to do this, click on confirm, cancel order. That is where this gets caught. Okay, so other model button clicked. Then you want to set if the ID is not equal to null, then you want to check the state. If it is cancelled, then you want to show this. If it is not, then you want to get this, show the delivered. Yes, and now the next one is get orders. So here you're going to get all orders, and you can see we are calling this get orders query from the handler, and I'm just going to get all the orders from here. There's an order state, so we are populating this as strings order state. So here we are having processing, delivered, and delivering, right? Then in here, if order is selected, we want to grab the state. So update.model.order state is equal to the value that we have from the drop down. Okay, now when you have a look from the client order, it is the same thing that we're also doing in there. So just a duplicate that we are also doing in there. Just that, you know, when getting orders, we need to specify the ID. You need to get the ID. For admin, we are not getting any ID because admin can see all orders, but for user, we have to specify the parameter of an ID, and now we have to call the service get orders by ID query, call this in here, and I'll specify the ID in that. It's almost the same thing. That is what we have duplicated down here. Okay, good, and that is it. All right, so let's run this. Let's test it out. Yeah, there's an issue here. You know, we did not register any of the services. So let's go to the program, and in here we're going to register this service. So these are the services that we're going to register. So we have the authentication provider service, we have the change password state, user active for that service, admin. All the services that we created, we're going to register them in here. And now that's why we add the SyncFusion. And as you can see from here, I have my license here on the SyncFusion. So you can also register an account in the get free license, and now copy the same thing and I'll paste it down in here. Okay, then you have to add the SignalR, add the Blazor service, and that is all. Then from the SignalR connection, you have to map the hub. So you can change the hub name, the URL. But when you change the URL, you have to make sure that you go to the service and also change the URL service. The URL in the service, that's the Netcode-Hub or communication service. So when you go to solution, let me show you well. When you go to the solution, and when you check the hub, you know, I created a Netcode-Hub service, and that's it here. So you have to come here now, change it as well. If you change it from the program, you have to change it in here too. Okay, now let's run this again. Okay, so it is ready. Now let's log in and check it out. All right, so before you continue, and I forgot to tell you one thing. You know, when the page loads, we must have this graph displayed. So with this graph, we have to create a component, and this component is known as homepage graph. Then in that, we are using the Syncfusion. You can see it's a stream rendering, and we're having this skeleton loader. It is from the Syncfusion that we created earlier on. Then we're using this SF chart, and here we are specifying the chart type here as what. The chart type is column, so we have column chart. And because we have created the queries, the commands, the queries and the handlers already, so what you need to do here is to call the handler and now get it. So you can see we have this get product ordered by month, get ordered product with quantity response, and in there you can see when the page initializes, we get the user ID, and we check if user is not equal to null. You want to extract the claims, that's the row and then the user ID. So when you come here and check if the row is admin, call in this method without passing in anything. If it is row user, then passing the user ID, as you can see from here. When you get to the chart 2, do the same thing. So admin passing null because admin want to retrieve everything, but for user, passing the user ID. And now when it gets to the handler, it's going to check if it is not null, if the ID user ID is not null, then it's going to make a search to that specific value assigned to that user ID which is coming in, and I'll return the content. If it is null too, get a whole data and then return it to this. So with this, we can render this SF chart with that. So you can see I'm having the same thing duplicated. This is the same column type. So I had this is a 1 and now this is 2. So the same thing that we're doing. When we are done, you go to the home and we're going to modify the page a little bit. Okay, so here we have an interactive server, and in that, when you check, we have a home template. This home template, we want to display the footer. We want to display this home section 1 column 9. We want to display column 3 because that's what we've been using, and also display. So let me actually set this. Let me put this like this. So you can decide to hide any of them. You can decide to also show them as well. Then from the home header template, we have the admin and the client. So we're going to use this authorized write view, specify the policy, and I'll pass in the component. So this means that admin can have access to this. User can also have access to that. Okay. Then we have our section column 9 in here. We specify the graph that we created. And also the section 1 column 9, we specify the banner that we created. Now lastly, we have a footer beneath. That's what we are doing. For this, we can close this. We can clear this because we don't need this for now. Then here too, we are also calling our Hub connection. Then we also want to subscribe to the Hub connection in there as well. All right, so it's ready. Now let's log in and check it out. All right, so let's see. Now you can see we have this sidebar nicely. When we minimize this, we can have this sidebar too as well. Now let's go in there and I'll create user and check it out. So let's add fresh user, and there's going to be user at user. Oh, that will be the email. And you can see that once we type, we have the validation in progress. So this is user policy, is user policy, and this is user at 123. Now user at 123. Now you can see that is the state that I was talking about. You can see now you can see the password. You can also hide the password. Now let's click on create user. Now let's wait and check it out. You can see user created. Now let's wait. Okay, so this is done. When you go to now manage users, you must see 2 users. Click on that. Let's see. And you can see that we have user and we have admin. So you can see default user is false. and our admin is through. You can see that. Good. Now you can go in there and add products. So it's the same thing as we did in the overview. Okay, we spent much time here, so when you have it, you can try hands on it, and in case you have any issue too, let me know. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching this, and hopefully I'm going to catch you up in the next video.